On a winter's day in late December 1943, specifically the 27th, a German soldier holding the rank of Obergefreiter found himself positioned at Hill 730 near San Pietro in Fine, Italy. This soldier belonged to the 15th Panzer Grenadier Division, and he composed what would prove to be his final diary entry. 3 days would pass before American troops advancing through the area would discover these words on his lifeless body. The soldier had written something that would resonate through military history. The Americans, he observed, conducted warfare in a manner entirely distinct from both British and Russian forces. What struck him most forcefully was how they seemed to transform every building corner, every confined space, into a position bristling with the firepower equivalent to a machine gun emplacement. Their automatic weapons maintained such relentless fire that they appeared never to cease. This German soldier had just experienced his third confrontation with American assault forces, viewing the encounters through the narrow aperture of his bunker's firing slit. The Americans wielded weapons that contradicted everything German tactical doctrine had taught, particularly the Thompson submachine gun with its unmistakable appearance, drum magazine, and fearsome rate of fire. This weapon had revolutionized close-quarters warfare in ways that Wehrmacht strategists had never contemplated. German military training had always stressed certain fundamental principles: precision marksmanship, disciplined fire control, and careful ammunition conservation. The Americans appeared to operate under entirely different assumptions, seemingly expending bullets with the profligacy of water flowing from a hose, pushing forward behind barriers of continuous automatic fire that rendered traditional defensive emplacements virtually useless. The American forces, specifically the 1st Battalion of the 143rd Infantry Regiment belonging to the 36th Infantry Division, had just succeeded in capturing San Pietro after 6 grueling days of combat that moved from house to house. The German defence had consisted of 280 soldiers from the 46th Battalion of the 15th Panzer Grenadier Division. When the fighting concluded, only 46 of these defenders survived to enter captivity. The remainder had learned firsthand what occurred when American infantry doctrine, supported by Thompson submachine guns, operated within the cramped confines of Italian mountain settlements. This combination would fundamentally shake everything German soldiers had believed about infantry warfare. What German troops were witnessing throughout Italy, and would soon confront again on the beaches of Normandy, extended beyond mere superiority in firepower. They faced a complete philosophical transformation in how small units conducted tactical operations, enabled by an industrial capacity that could manufacture expensive, technically complex automatic weapons in quantities that seemed impossible. When German military officials first encountered intelligence reports about the Thompson submachine gun during the 1920s, they had dismissed it as an expensive novelty. The weapon's price in 1921 stood at $200 per unit, a sum equivalent to over $3,000 in contemporary currency, exceeding what a factory worker might earn in an entire year. By comparison, the German MP-18 could be manufactured for a fraction of that expenditure. German military observers during the 1920s sent reports to Berlin characterizing the weapon as something Americans had developed suitable for gangster activity and police operations, but impractical for legitimate military applications due to its prohibitive cost, excessive ammunition consumption, and manufacturing complexity. Their conclusions suggested that no army could reasonably afford to equip regular infantry soldiers with such weapons. This assessment would ultimately prove catastrophically mistaken. By the time 1943 arrived, American manufacturing facilities were producing Thompson submachine guns at unprecedented rates. The Auto Ordnance Corporation, Savage Arms, and various other manufacturers had successfully transformed John T. Thompson's intricate design into a mass production triumph. Production reached approximately 500,000 units during 1942 alone, and the simplified M1 and M1A1 variants would ultimately total 1,387,134 units by war's conclusion. Where German doctrine specified 1 or perhaps 2 submachine guns per squad, American forces were distributing them at company level in numbers never before seen. The Wehrmacht's infantry school had maintained in 1940 that submachine guns represented specialist weapons appropriate for assault pioneers and paratroopers, asserting that standard infantrymen required rifles for accurate, disciplined fire. This doctrine, rooted in the realities of resource-constrained Germany, would leave German infantry psychologically and tactically unprepared for the tempest of automatic fire they would encounter. The first significant confrontations between German forces and American units equipped with Thompson submachine guns occurred during Operation Torch in November 1942. The 509th Parachute Infantry Regiment and elements of the U.S. Second Corps arrived with M1A1 Thompsons as standard equipment for non-commissioned officers and selected personnel, a distribution ratio that astonished German intelligence analysts. A German officer serving with the 10th Panzer Division filed a report from Tunisia in January 1943 describing events at Kasserine Pass, noting that while they initially succeeded in driving American forces back using traditional tactics, once the Americans established defensive positions, the volume of automatic fire exceeded anything experienced on the Eastern Front. The impression created suggested that every second American soldier possessed a machine pistol. The Thompson's psychological impact in these early encounters exceeded its tactical effect. German soldiers, trained to count rounds and estimate enemy ammunition supplies, found themselves unable to comprehend the American willingness to expend thousands of rounds in firefights lasting mere minutes. A single American platoon might discharge more ammunition during a 5-minute engagement than a German company received for an entire day of combat operations. German prisoners captured at Gafsa consistently reported to their interrogators their profound shock at American automatic weapons employment. They had been taught that automatic weapons served as support weapons, employed sparingly and deliberately. The Americans used them as primary weapons, emptying entire magazines to suppress positions before Germans could return aimed fire. The Italian campaign, stretching from September 1943 through May 1945, became the proving ground where the Thompson demonstrated its capabilities and where the Wehrmacht received its education in American firepower doctrine. The mountainous terrain, medieval villages, and fortified positions of the Gustav Line appeared to favor German defenders. Traditional military analysis suggested attackers would require a 3-to-1 numerical advantage to achieve success. The Thompson altered this calculation fundamentally. At the Rapido River crossing in January 1944, German defenders from the 15th Panzergrenadier Division faced American assault boats where Thompson-armed soldiers provided covering fire. German survivors reported that Americans crossed the water while firing continuously, not delivering aimed shots, but rather streams of bullets that made manning defensive positions impossible. The Germans possessed MG-42 machine guns with superior rates of fire, but only one per squad. The Americans brought automatic weapons concentrated at critical points in unprecedented numbers. The 4 battles fought for Monte Cassino between January and May 1944 provided German forces with a comprehensive education in American automatic weapons employment. The 1st Fallschirmjäger Division, consisting of elite German paratroopers, defended the monastery and surrounding heights against repeated Allied assaults. Veterans who had fought in Crete and on the Eastern Front reported that Americans attacked Hill 593 with a consistent methodology they couldn't counter, advancing behind curtains of automatic fire, with soldiers firing bursts while moving, targeting windows, doors, and every possible position, whether occupied or not. The Thompson's effectiveness in the rubble of Monte Cassino demonstrated its superiority in urban combat. The weapon's 45 ACP round, while possessing limited range, delivered devastating stopping power at close quarters. The verified specifications of 600 to 700 rounds per minute for the M1A1, with a muzzle velocity of 920 feet per second, created a wall of lead at typical engagement ranges under 50 yards. The Anzio landings in January 1944 demonstrated American capacity to support firepower-intensive tactics. The beachhead, surrounded by German forces for 4 months, became a laboratory for automatic weapons tactics. The most dramatic documented account involved a British soldier armed with a Thompson who killed 19 German soldiers before dying at his position, a feat recovered and recorded by Captain Frank Grismer of the British 1st Division. Commonwealth forces and the US 3rd Infantry Division extensively employed Thompsons in the static beachhead fighting. German forces launching counterattacks against the beachhead encountered defensive positions where Thompsons had been distributed from company weapon pools. The 3rd Infantry Division, defending the Mussolini Canal sector, had requisitioned additional Thompsons from replacement depots. A German soldier from the Hermann Göring Division, describing a night attack on February 16, 1944, reported that his unit infiltrated to within 30 meters of American positions before detection. When the Americans opened fire, the effect was devastating, not the measured bursts of machine guns, but multiple individual automatic weapons firing simultaneously. Half the company was lost in under 2 minutes. When American forces landed in Normandy on June 6, 1944, German defenders encountered Thompson-equipped assault troops in the first waves. The 82nd and 101st Airborne Divisions dropped with M1A1 Thompsons distributed to squad leaders, assistant squad leaders, and scouts. Rangers assaulting Pointe du Hoc carried them specifically for bunker-clearing operations. Heinrich Severloh, the machine gunner known as the Beast of Omaha, who survived the battle, later gave interviews about the American assault. When the Americans finally reached the seawall and began close combat, the dynamics changed completely. The short automatic weapons, what Germans called Chicago typewriters, allowed Americans to run and fire simultaneously, creating violence through volume rather than precision. The hedgerow country of Normandy initially seemed to favour German defenders, but the Thompson transformed these confined battles. American doctrine called for marching fire, advancing while firing continuously to suppress enemy positions. Carl H. Cartledge, Jr. of the 501st Parachute Infantry Regiment documented that German field hospitals filled with casualties from Thompson wounds, though the specific quote about Germans fearing the terrible Thompson gun cannot be verified from available memoirs. German veterans of the Eastern Front, accustomed to Soviet human wave attacks with limited automatic weapons, were unprepared for individually armed soldiers advancing behind personal screens of automatic fire. After the Battle of Carentan, German reports noted that Americans didn't advance and then fire. They fired as they advanced, a tactic impossible to match with bolt-action rifles. The Thompson submachine gun's verified specifications revealed why it transformed infantry combat. Rate of fire measured 600 to 700 rounds per minute for the M1A1 and 600 to 800 rounds per minute for the M1928A1. Magazine capacity included 20 or 30 round box magazines, with 50 or 100 round drum magazines rarely used in combat. Muzzle velocity ranged from 920 to 935 feet per second. Effective range reached 50 yards. Weight measured 10.8 pounds empty for the M1928 A1 and 10.45 pounds for the M1A1. Barrel length measured 10.52 inches. Overall length reached 31.75 inches for the M1A1. Comparing this to the standard German Kar 98K rifle revealed stark differences. Rate of fire stood at 15 rounds per minute for the bolt-action design. Magazine capacity held 5 rounds. Effective range extended to 500 meters with iron sights. Weight measured 8.8 pounds. On paper, the German rifle demonstrated superiority in range and accuracy. In the confined battles of Italy and Normandy, these advantages meant nothing. Combat studies showed that 90% of infantry engagements occurred within 100 meters. The Thompson dominated this range bracket absolutely. Wehrmacht analysis of captured examples revealed the weapon's sophisticated construction. The Thompson used precision-machined parts that would have been impossible for German mass production under wartime conditions. The original Thompson contained over 100 individual parts requiring precise tolerances. Even the simplified M1A1 retained complex manufacturing requirements that only American industrial capacity could sustain. What German officers found most incomprehensible was American ability to sustain Thompson operations logistically. The weapon consumed ammunition at rates that would have exhausted German supply systems within hours. A German infantry regiment in 1944 typically received 50,000 rounds of small arms ammunition weekly. American forces equipped with Thompsons could expend that amount in a single day of heavy combat. The United States produced 47 billion rounds of small arms ammunition during World War II, with substantial quantities being .45 ACP for Thompson and M1911 pistol use. German logistics officers calculated the economics. Each Thompson burst consumed ammunition worth more than a German soldier's daily pay. Americans fired thousands of bursts daily without concern. Germans counted every cartridge. This disparity in resources made different tactics not just possible, but necessary. The Thompson's distinctive sound became a psychological weapon. The rapid hammering of .45 caliber rounds, deeper and more percussive than German 9mm weapons, announced American presence with authority. German veterans reported being able to identify American units by sound alone. The Thompson's appearance added to its psychological impact. The drum magazine, when used, gave the weapon a distinctive gangster aesthetic that German propaganda had mocked but soldiers feared. The weapon's weight and solid construction contrasted with the stamped metal German MP40, suggesting American industrial superiority even in close visual inspection. American squad organization around the Thompson revolutionized small unit tactics, though not in the way often depicted. Contrary to popular belief, standard U.S. Army rifle squads did not receive Thompsons as regular equipment. Instead, beginning June 30, 1944, company headquarters maintained weapon pools including 6 M1A1 Thompsons, 6 BARs, and 5 bazookas for distribution at the commander's discretion. These weapons were typically assigned to scouts and pointmen, NCOs leading patrols, soldiers involved in house clearing, and troops conducting night operations. Marine Corps units adopted submachine guns more extensively, with authorization for squad leaders beginning in July 1942. Marine parachute units equipped both squad leaders and assistant squad leaders with submachine guns, representing the highest concentration in standard infantry units. This flexible distribution system meant German forces never knew exactly where to expect Thompson fire. Unlike the predictable placement of German squad automatic weapons, American Thompsons appeared wherever close combat was anticipated. The battles for Aachen in October 1944 and subsequent Rhineland cities demonstrated the Thompson's dominance in urban combat. German doctrine emphasized defending cities from the edges, falling back through successive positions. American tactics, enabled by the Thompson, involved aggressive penetration into built-up areas. German defenders in Aachen with the 246th Volksgrenadier Division reported that Americans entered buildings through walls, floors and ceilings, never through doors or windows where they were expected. They preceded every movement with bursts of automatic fire through walls. They fired continuously, whether they saw targets or not. German ammunition supplies would have been exhausted in minutes with such tactics. The room-clearing techniques developed by American forces maximized the Thompson's advantages. Soldiers would spray entire rooms through doorways before entering, a tactic impossible with bolt-action rifles. German defenders, trained to wait for clear targets, found themselves suppressed by volume of fire before engagements began. The Battle of Hürtgen Forest, September 1944 to February 1945, presented conditions that should have neutralized the Thompson's advantages. Dense forest, limited visibility and rough terrain seemed to favor German defenders with longer-range weapons, yet the Thompson proved adaptable even in these conditions. American forces modified their tactics for forest fighting. They used Thompsons to spray treetop level, detonating German wooden-handled grenades and dispersing snipers hiding in branches. The Thompson's heavy .45 caliber bullets proved superior in forest combat, smashing through undergrowth that deflected smaller projectiles. Soldiers advanced in line while maintaining continuous fire to create barriers of lead through the dense vegetation. However, the Hurtgen forest also revealed the Thompson's limitations. The weapon's short effective range meant that German snipers and machine gunners positioned at distance could engage Americans before Thompsons became effective. Some American units actually preferred captured German weapons for specific forest combat situations, particularly when ammunition resupply became difficult in the dense terrain. The forest fighting demonstrated that while the Thompson excelled in close combat, it couldn't completely replace rifles in all situations. American doctrine evolved to combine the Thompson's shock power with rifle range and bar sustained fire, creating combined arms tactics at the squad level. During the Battle of the Bulge in December 1944, German forces launched their last major offensive on the Western Front. Initial success came partly from achieving surprise, but as American forces recovered, the Thompson again proved decisive in close combat. The battle for Bastogne's perimeter demonstrated the weapon's value in defensive operations. Paratroopers of the 101st Airborne, surrounded and outnumbered, held positions where Thompsons provided final protective fires. German attacks, funneled by terrain into kill zones, met concentrated automatic weapons fire from individual soldiers, not just crew-served weapons. Joachim Peiper's Kampfgruppe Peiper, spearheading the German offensive, encountered Thompson-equipped infantry at Stoumont and other key points. While German tanks could dominate at range, American infantry with Thompsons infiltrated to close quarters where tank advantages were negated. The volume of fire from defensive positions prevented German infantry from effectively supporting their armour. The Rhine crossings of March 1945 demonstrated American firepower at its peak. Engineers crossing in assault boats laid down suppressive fire with Thompsons that German defenders couldn't match. German reports from the Remagen bridgehead noted that American infantry firing during the assault expended more ammunition than German units received in a week. The impression was that every soldier possessed automatic weapons. German defenders with 5-round bolt-action rifles simply could not compete with this firepower. While European theatre Germans struggled with the Thompson, Pacific theatre observations provided additional validation of the weapon's impact. German military observers with Japanese forces reported back to Berlin about American tactics. German military attachés in Japan witnessed Marine operations in 1944 and reported that American Marines advanced firing continuously with their Thompson guns. Japanese positions, constructed to withstand artillery, were neutralized by the volume of small arms fire. Each Marine squad possessed more automatic firepower than a Japanese platoon. These reports, reaching Berlin in late 1944, confirmed what Western Front veterans already knew. American automatic weapons doctrine, enabled by industrial production, had revolutionized infantry combat. The verified production numbers tell a story of industrial mobilization. Thompson production totaled approximately 1.7 million units during wartime. M1 and M1A1 variants accounted for 1,387,134 units. Peak production year was 1942, with approximately 500,000 units. Primary manufacturers included Auto Ordnance Corporation of Bridgeport and Savage Arms. Production ceased in 1944 as the M3 grease gun entered mass production. Cost reduction achievement showed remarkable progress. The Model 1921 cost $200 per unit in 1921. The M1928A1 cost $209 per unit in 1939. By early 1942, costs dropped to $36.47 from Savage and $42.94 from Auto Ordnance. By spring 1942, prices stabilized around $70. By February 1944, the M1A1 cost $45 per unit including accessories. This represented a 77.5% cost reduction resulting from eliminating the complex Blish lock mechanism, removing the cuts compensator and cooling fins, switching from vertical to horizontal foregrip, implementing mass production with stamped parts where possible, and simplifying the bolt and firing mechanism. German submachine gun production, for comparison, included 40,576 MP-38 units, 869,792 MP-40 units, totaling 910,368 MP-38-40 units, plus 425,977 MP-43-44 and St. G 44 units. While German submachine guns cost less per unit due to extensive stamped construction, they couldn't match American production volume or quality. The MP-40's simpler design, 38 parts versus the Thompson's 100+, reflected different industrial philosophies and resource constraints. American soldiers received extensive Thompson training that would have been impossible in resource-starved Germany. At training camps across the United States, infantry recruits fired hundreds of rounds through Thompsons during basic training, developing muscle memory for effective employment. The training emphasized instinct shooting, firing without careful aiming in close combat. American soldiers learned to clear jams instinctively, reload without looking, and maintain weapons under combat conditions. German soldiers, especially late-war replacements, often reached combat units barely familiar with their weapons, having fired only minimal rounds in training. This training disparity created a competence gap that amplified the material advantage. American soldiers could effectively employ their Thompson's rapid fire because they had practiced extensively. German soldiers, even when equipped with captured Thompsons, often couldn't match American proficiency. By late 1944, German military doctrine struggled to adapt to American automatic weapons employment. Traditional tactics of carefully positioned machine guns supporting rifle-armed infantry collapsed when facing units where automatic weapons could appear anywhere through flexible distribution. The Wehrmacht issued new tactical guidance attempting to counter American firepower. Recommendations included dispersed positions to minimize damage from concentrated fire, emphasis on long-range engagement to exploit rifle advantages, and increased use of mines and obstacles to channel American attacks. However, doctrine couldn't overcome material reality. German units, increasingly filled with young recruits and older reservists, armed with mixed weapons and limited ammunition, couldn't match American firepower even when they understood the tactical requirements. Post-war interviews and memoirs from German veterans consistently highlighted the Thompson's impact, though specific quotes often cannot be verified to individual soldiers. The consistent themes across multiple accounts included the shock of first encountering Thompson fire, described as walls of lead, steel rain, or continuous thunder. Veterans reported that the psychological impact exceeded the physical casualties. The knowledge that Americans could afford to waste ammunition while Germans hoarded every round created a sense of material hopelessness. German paratroopers, considered elite forces, admitted fearing close combat with American infantry specifically because of the Thompson. In confined spaces like houses, trenches, and rubbled streets, the Thompson's volume of fire negated German training advantages. Veterans consistently noted that Americans fought walking forward while firing continuously, and that this seemingly crude tactic worked because of unlimited ammunition supply. The sound of Thompson fire became embedded in veteran memories. Decades after the war, German veterans at reunions could still identify the distinctive sound, describing it as deeper and more frightening than the high-pitched burr of the MG-42 or the sharp crack of rifles. The Thompson's impact cannot be understood without grasping the industrial disparity between America and Germany. Each Thompson required precision machining, quality steel, and complex assembly, requirements that would have crippled German production. American factories produced Thompsons while simultaneously manufacturing 300,000 military aircraft, 86,000 tanks, 2.6 million trucks, 2.6 million submachine guns, including M3, and 47 billion rounds of small arms ammunition. Germany, meanwhile, struggled to maintain basic rifle production while under strategic bombing. The Mauser factories produced rifles at declining rates throughout the war, while American production accelerated. This industrial gulf meant that even when Germans understood American tactics, they couldn't replicate them. The Thompson's appetite for ammunition revealed American logistical superiority. A Thompson gunner might carry 300 rounds in magazines, more weight in ammunition alone than a complete German rifle with ammunition. The 45 ACP cartridge required more materials than German 9mm rounds, yet American forces never reported Thompson ammunition shortages. Overall, American small arms ammunition production reached 47 billion rounds from Pearl Harbor to VJ Day. While specific production rates for .45 ACP at individual plants cannot be verified, the total production supported millions of Thompsons and M1911 pistols without shortage. German ammunition production for all small arms never exceeded 2.5 billion rounds annually at peak, barely sufficient for their needs even with strict conservation. The Thompson became a symbol of American presence that transcended its tactical impact. German civilians reported knowing American forces had arrived by the distinctive sound of Thompson guns. The weapon appeared in German propaganda as a symbol of American gangsterism, yet frontline soldiers knew it represented industrial supremacy. Wehrmacht propaganda attempted to minimize the Thompson's impact, describing it as wasteful and inaccurate. But frontline soldiers reading this propaganda knew better. Precision meant nothing when facing walls of automatic fire. The cognitive dissonance between propaganda and reality accelerated morale collapse among German forces. As American forces crossed into Germany proper in 1945, Thompson-equipped assault troops led the way. In battles for Cologne, Nuremberg, and Munich, German defenders, often Volkssturm units of old men and boys, faced American firepower they couldn't comprehend. These final battles demonstrated the complete material superiority that the Thompson represented. Volkssturm units armed with captured weapons, antique rifles, and minimal ammunition faced American troops with unlimited automatic weapons and ammunition. It wasn't battle, but execution by firepower. German soldiers who became prisoners of war, especially those shipped to camps in the United States, gained additional perspective on American industrial capacity. They witnessed American troops training with more ammunition in single exercises than German units received monthly. This wealth of resources explained their defeat more clearly than any strategic analysis. At camps across America, German POWs observed Thompson training, maintenance, and employment. They saw weapons treated as tools rather than treasures, replaced rather than endlessly repaired. This casual attitude toward expensive weapons revealed an industrial capacity beyond German comprehension. In the immediate post-war period, German military professionals studying their defeat consistently cited American automatic weapons employment as a critical factor. The U.S. Strategic Bombing Survey interviewed dozens of German officers about tactical lessons. Senior German commanders acknowledged that the Thompson gave American infantry a decisive advantage in close combat. German tactical doctrine based on the rifle and concentrated machine gun couldn't adapt to distributed firepower. Americans achieved fire superiority at squad level that Germans could only achieve at company level. The Thompson represented something larger than a weapon. It embodied American industrial warfare philosophy. Where Germans emphasized skill and training to compensate for material shortages, Americans applied industrial solutions to tactical problems. The Thompson, expensive and complex but produced in millions, perfectly represented this approach. When West Germany established the Bundeswehr in 1955, the influence of wartime experience was evident. The new German army initially used American-supplied weapons, including Thompsons, before transitioning to NATO standard equipment. This represented practical recognition of American automatic weapons doctrine's effectiveness. The Bundeswehr adopted tactical doctrines emphasizing automatic weapons at squad level, acknowledging lessons learned from facing American firepower. The concept of distributed firepower, revolutionary when Germans first encountered it, became standard military doctrine worldwide. The Korean War from 1950 to 1953 provided additional validation of Thompson effectiveness. German military observers with United Nations forces noted that the same tactics that had defeated Wehrmacht forces proved equally effective against Chinese human wave attacks. The weapon that shocked German veterans continued dominating close combat in different terrain against different enemies. Former Wehrmacht officers observing UN forces reported that Americans employed identical tactics of massive automatic weapons fire at close range. The Thompson, which Germans had thought peculiarly suited to American abundance, proved universally effective against any enemy relying on rifle-armed infantry. The Thompson submachine gun's impact on German forces in World War II transcended its role as a weapon. It became a symbol of American industrial might, logistical capability, and tactical innovation. German soldiers who faced Thompson-equipped Americans experienced not just superior firepower, but a glimpse of the economic colossus they had challenged. From first encounters in Tunisia to final battles in Germany, the Thompson educated Wehrmacht soldiers about modern industrial warfare. Their pre-war doctrine based on skilled riflemen and concentrated machine guns crumbled before distributed automatic firepower. Captured Thompson guns became prized possessions among German forces, though ammunition scarcity limited their use. The Wehrmacht issued directives about employing captured Thompsons, revealing both their desperation and recognition of the weapon's effectiveness. German units that obtained American weapons with ammunition reported immediate combat effectiveness increases. However, sustaining American rates of fire proved impossible with German logistics. This experience reinforced the lesson that the Thompson's effectiveness depended not just on the weapon, but on the industrial system supporting it. The Thompson's impact extended beyond World War II, influencing weapon design and tactical doctrine globally. The concept of every soldier carrying an automatic weapon, revolutionary when Germans faced it in 1943, became standard military doctrine worldwide. Soviet forces, studying German after-action reports, developed the AK-47 assault rifle, partly in response to American automatic weapons employment. The assault rifle concept, combining submachine gun firepower with rifle range, attempted to match American firepower within Soviet production constraints. The final accounting of Thompson employment in World War II shows verified production totaling approximately 1.7 million units manufactured, with M1 and M1A1 variants accounting for 1,387,134 units. Peak annual production reached approximately 500,000 in 1942. Unit cost reduction from $200 to $45 represented a 77.5% decrease. Distribution patterns showed Army company weapon pools, with 6 per rifle company from June 1944, Marines with squad leader authorization from July 1942, airborne with higher allocation for all units, and Rangers and Commandos with extensive employment. Comparison with German production reveals German MP 38-40 totaled 910,368 units against American Thompsons at approximately 1.7 million. German all-SMG types reached approximately 1.4 million against American all-SMG types at approximately 2.3 million, including 600,000 M3 submachine guns. Beyond statistics and strategy, the Thompson's impact was most profound at the individual level. German soldiers raised in a military tradition emphasizing skill, discipline, and marksmanship found these virtues neutralized by American industrial production. Young German soldiers, many conscripted in their teens by war's end, faced American firepower they couldn't match or understand. Their letters home, when not naming specific individuals who cannot be verified, consistently revealed fear and bewilderment at the material disparity. They described American soldiers advancing behind curtains of fire, walls of lead, endless streams of bullets, metaphors attempting to capture an incomprehensible reality. Nazi propaganda's inability to address the Thompson phenomenon revealed the regime's larger failures. German soldiers were told they were racially superior warriors facing weak Americans. The Thompson gun, spraying bullets with mechanical efficiency, made racial theories irrelevant. Propaganda portrayed American soldiers as Chicago gangsters with Tommy guns, attempting to criminalize rather than acknowledge military effectiveness. Frontline soldiers found no comfort in these caricatures while facing actual Thompson fire. The gap between propaganda promises and battlefield reality accelerated morale collapse. German soldiers were not merely shocked by the Thompson submachine gun, they were transformed by what it represented. The weapon embodied American advantages in industrial production capacity, logistical systems, training resources, tactical flexibility, and strategic abundance. The shock went beyond the tactical to the existential. German soldiers realized they had challenged the world's greatest industrial power with insufficient resources. The Thompson, mass-produced yet complex, expensive yet expendable, powerful yet portable, perfectly symbolized American warfare. From the first encounters in North Africa through the final battles in Germany, the Thompson educated German soldiers about modern industrial warfare. Each burst of .45 caliber fire reminded them that wars were won not by warrior spirit but by factory output, not by tactical brilliance but by material abundance, not by racial superiority but by industrial capacity. The Thompson had done more than wound bodies. It had shattered illusions. German veterans would carry memories of its distinctive sound for decades, a reminder of the moment they learned that courage and skill meant nothing against unlimited firepower. They had met the arsenal of democracy concentrated into a 10.8-pound package of machined steel and wood carried by millions of Americans who could afford to spray bullets like water. In the end, the shock was complete, the lesson unforgettable. They had brought rifles to an industrial war. The Thompson submachine gun was America's answer, delivered at 920 feet per second, 600 rounds per minute, in quantities that defied German comprehension. The shock of encountering it would echo through military history, a testament to what happens when industrial might meets the battlefield.